If you don't want to accept that, I don't know what else I can do for you. Will there be something else?
I don't know. Will there?
Is something wrong?
With what?
With anything.
Is that what you're asking me? Is there something wrong with anything?
Will there be anything else?
You already asked me that. You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
Sir?
I said, you don't know what you're talking about. Call it.
Call it.
Yes.
For what?
Bait or mental retardation?
Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here.
You need to call it. I can't call it for you. Well, it wouldn't be fair.
Look, I need to know what I stand to win.
Everything.
How's that?
You stand to win everything. Call it.
All right.
Bait, then.
Well done.
What's up, guys? Hope you're doing well. Recently, or not so recently, depending on how long this video is going to take, Bald Omni-Man committed the greatest sin ever. In a video he uploaded, he dropped the shittiest take I have heard in a while.
In terms of ring isolations, though, and where I have to just be honest and make the delineation, is that I just think that they're dog shit. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think that if you're someone who's a calisthenics athlete or you love calisthenics as developmental tools, it makes sense to use weights where it's practical to do so.
The only similar statement that I have had the disgrace to hear was when I heard Scooby 1961 claim that you won't get big with calisthenics unless you are on gear. Bald Omni-Man dared to call rings, and I quote, dog shit forearms, end quote.
That is unbelievable, dude. That is unbelievable.
He claimed that rings are great for compounds, which they are, but he used that as sugarcoating to then say that rings suck for arms, stating that the movements didn't feel good, that they were either too difficult for people who aren't that strong, or those that were scalable were not worth doing. He also said, and I quote, no professional bodybuilder is using ring curls as a main biceps builder. This, of course, is a very vague statement and a very fallacious one indeed. In this video, I will debunk these quote-unquote arguments, and I will bring my arguments in favor of rings over dumbbells and cables. So stay tuned and let's begin.
I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna...
Starting off with this, I know BOM is bald, but not because of that, he's Charles Xavier. So allow me to question why instead of saying, I don't like how ring isolation feels for me, he claims directly that they don't feel good.
I know it's hard to believe people when they say I know how you feel. But I actually know how you feel.
Is he connected to the muscles of all lifters and knows how each of us feels when doing ring movements? Because feeling a movement is very individual. Me, for example, I don't really feel my biceps working to the same degree when I do dumbbells or cables. I barely feel anything. But then, when I do ring curls or pelican curls, I sometimes have to end the sets early because I feel such a deep stretch and pump that I feel I'm gonna tear the biceps. I have talked to different people about this, like my editor and some of the guys that I have helped with programming. And they all had similar experiences. Rings just feel better for us. So just because you don't feel it, that does not mean that they won't feel better for someone else. And the opposite is also true.
And when you try any tricep or bicep exercises, you experiment with a wide swath of rep ranges, you're gonna find dependable answers. Lucky you, you find out that everything's just a little different, but everything works well. And then, hey, great, use all the rep ranges you want, no big deal. So if someone's like, dude, I'm telling you, man, big arms, you need sets of 8 alternating dumbbell curls. You could be like, oh, that's an interesting idea to try, but I'm not just going to limit myself to that. I'm going to try that exercise with lower reps, with higher reps, with everything in between to see where am I getting my best stimulus, pumps and soreness and fatigue in the muscle, and my least fatigue. I don't have to try as hard and get as tired, and my joints feel much better than they otherwise would.
Another thing to mention is that the more you do a movement and the more proficient you get at it, the more you can recruit the target muscle. For example, NH experienced this firsthand with incline curls. He talked about how awful they were, but once he actually took them seriously, he realized that they were actually really fucking good. What makes you think rings are different in that regard? We all know that BOM likes lifting weights, not doing bodyweight stuff. So it is fairly clear to me that he never gave ring isolation the proper focus, time, and attention necessary to get good at them and developed a proper mind-muscle connection. A similar thing happened to him with inverted rows, a movement he complimented in the same clip I showed you. He said he didn't feel them as good, and then when he was in the middle of moving to his new home, he was forced to do them for a while, and lo and behold, he grew to like them.
Inverted rows. Now, if this was like for me specifically, I hate inverted rows. I don't get anything out of them. I don't feel them. I hate them. Fitness FAQs. He was gracious enough to have me on his podcast, and we talked about how awesome we thought rings are. Now, in terms of how I feel about rings, I don't do them so much anymore just because I just happen to want to use dumbbells and cables right now. But in terms of compound movements, ring exercises, I made entire videos about these. They just stimulate the upper body so well. So ring rows, ring pull-ups, ring push-ups, ring dips, all fantastic exercises to do as hypertrophy movements.
In my personal experience, I went through a similar thing with barbell rows. At first, I didn't feel my back at all and felt very unstable. But as I kept grinding away at the movement, my capacity to properly recruit the muscles increased, and barbell rows turned into one of my favorite back movements. And one extra thing, the benefits of rings is that you can tweak any movement to make it more to your liking. Maybe tuck in your elbows, grab the rings at a supinated 45-degree angle, or do a full ring rotation on every rep. False grip, regular grip, wide grip, close grip. Don't give up on a movement just because you tried it at a surface level once or twice and didn't feel right. First, get good at it, then you can safely say if it works for you or not.
It's getting harder, babe, to love you.
This one was weird because he separated movements into too difficult for most people and scalable movements. He failed to explain what the scalable and non-scalable movements were, because as far as I know, I haven't seen a ring isolation movement that is not scalable. So I'm gonna assume, based on personal experience, that by scalable he meant ring curls, ring face pulls, and ring flies, and by too difficult he meant pelican curls and ring extensions. So let's go with the first argument. Scalable movements are worse than dumbbells and cables. My brother in rings, you are not the guy to be comparing them. You clearly have, as I stated before, more experience with dumbbell and cable isolation than with rings. Of course you're gonna feel them more.
Of course!
If you check Alex, someone that has given both rings and weights the same level of commitment, you can hear this.
Ring curls in a high position are difficult, particularly if you do them one arm at a time. With two, that's an easier regression, but the way I'm showing you, wow. It's like I'm using heavy dumbbells. Feels exactly the same. And you can see that I often struggle to get even 10 reps. So what does that indicate? It's scalable and effective. So you can just lean back further or eventually get down on the floor, which would be the ultimate level. Plus you can wear a weight vest.
Now, we're going to isolate with the best exercise, the pelican curl. But my little twist is to use reverse bands so that there's no excuse. All of you can do it. Because that's always what I hear. Oh, they're too difficult. You're telling me to become an elite gymnast. Nope. Regress. Then we hit the ring curls again. You can see I'm already starting to get tired, and the bicep pump is through the roof. Like, I feel like they're gonna freaking explode. And you best believe the DOMS is comparable to a weight training session. So if you want to build massive biceps with body weight training, I mean, this is gonna do it for you. You don't even have to load it. That's the craziest part.
I just don't find that the ring stuff feels good. Some of them are too difficult for people who aren't that strong to get into. The ones that you can scale aren't necessarily better than a dumbbell or a cable. In fact, they're notably worse. You're not going to see any professional bodybuilder, natural or not, doing ring curls as a main builder for their biceps. It just doesn't make sense.
Then we have NH and JOF, people with free weight bias, and even them know how good ring face pulls are.
However, I believe that there is even better than the cable face pull, which is to me the ring face pulls that I'm putting in S tier. Now this is shocking because you will never build massive round shoulders only with this. But to me, if we're talking health of the shoulder, external rotation, isolation of the real delt, and recruitment of every muscle of the trapezius that allows the shoulders to stay healthy and stable for a long time, you cannot beat this movement. The contraction is beautiful, and there is a stretch, which is why I think it's better than face pulls. The issue with a cable stack is that the tension throughout the motion is excellent, of course, but as you let go of the weight, the pulley system takes care of most of the load, which is not the case when you do it with rings. Your body weight doesn't magically dissipate in thin air when you start to revert the motion into the positive. So if you have never tried it, do it next time in the gym. I guarantee you it's going to change your life.
So definitely they are not worse than cables or dumbbells. At a minimum, they are equal. And I personally, in my opinion, would go a step further. Rings are better than dumbbells or cables, and here's why. First, they have the freedom of movement of dumbbells. You can modify a movement however you want. 2, they have the amazing resistance curve that cables offer, an overall pretty even path of resistance. Number 3, you have built-in capacity for beyond failure techniques by doing mechanical drop sets. And number 4, they always have a great stretch at the bottom, even if the movement is concentric biased like ring curls or ring face pulls. So with the first point out of the way, let's move on to the second one. They are too difficult for most people that are not strong. I'm sorry, but this is just a lazy argument. It is like saying Nordic curls are too difficult for most people, therefore it is a bad movement. Just because a movement has a certain strength level requirement to do it, does not mean that it's a bad movement. Secondly, this shows a lack of understanding of how bodyweight calisthenics is used for bodybuilding. Unlike weights where you can load a movement with more or less weight, with bodyweight movements it's not as simple. You use regressions and progressions so you can build up to harder movements. For example, you first do your rack chins, then you move on to eccentric pull-ups, then to pull-ups, then to chest-to-bar pull-ups, and then sternum pull-ups. So supposing that pelicans or ring extensions are not scalable, which we will talk about in a second, that just means that you need to build the strength and tissue capacity to handle them, not that they won't be good hypertrophy movements. And thirdly, the fuck do you mean that these movements are not scalable? Have you tried, I don't know, taking 2 steps away from the anchor point, lowering or heightening the rings, leaning forward or back, reverse bands? Seriously, I am really reaching when I say that pelicans are not scalable. Nordic curls, ring dips, yeah, I get it. But ring isolation? Fuck no! To summarize this section,
amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
This is the end, beautiful friend.
Okay, so this one is last because it is the easiest one to dismantle of the bunch. Let me give you this simple example. Suppose we are in the 70s and gym machines are starting to surface as a training methodology. You see a lot of people actually prefer to use machines for some exercises like curls, pec flies, or pushdowns, so you want to try them out. But then, you purchase a fitness magazine and see some jack dude claiming the following. No bodybuilder ever got big biceps from cable curls. He was not wrong.
He's out of line, but he's right.
But having the knowledge of what we have today about cables, would you say it was a good counter-argument for cable curls? Of course not. As we can see, that is an ad populum fallacy. Just because a lot of people don't do or say something, that does not mean that something works or not, especially when we talk about training modalities that are new and or haven't been tested to their full capacity. But rings have been present for a while. Why haven't they been used by bodybuilders more often? This can be attributed to, first of all, we tend to do what others do or did before us. Very few people try out something outside the bubble because they're in fear of being rejected by the group. Secondly, the most prominent era of bodybuilding, the golden era, was filled with steroid users. The side effects of steroids include joint issues, weak tendons, and a poor strength to body weight ratio. Rings require a lot of relative strength and push you into very disadvantageous stretched positions. If our Roy head were to even think about a pelican curl, he would tear both of his biceps immediately. Third, the silver and bronze era actually did use rings for some muscles before they started adopting machines. Lastly, something I want to add before concluding with this section is that a lot of bodybuilders don't do deadlift, squat, or bench press. Does that mean that they are bad movements? Yeah, a very bad argument indeed. In conclusion, we can say that rings are a valid way of developing the arms. It is a convenient, effective, and challenging modality of training that, as long as it is programmed correctly, will allow you to get the results that you want. If you're interested in learning how to program, getting your program reviewed, or getting coached for just $30, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram at ProteinManSupremacy. Otherwise, you have my Buy Me a Coffee link if you want to donate, and you also have like 1,000,000 free programs in my link tree in the description. As always, guys, thanks for watching.